Hello guys, this is Avcoor and I'm back with some more Archeland content. Branches of the forest is really important and it needs to be discussed. The thing about this is we already have branches of the forest, but now they've made it constant content that we can actually play through. Each of these areas have at least 30 stages and the rewards are really good. That's what I like most about this, but I do have some problems with it. And at the end, I'm going to go through some teams and some characters that will help you clear this content a lot easier because this will get difficult as you rise in levels. So, what is Branches of the Forest? Branches of the Forest started like 2 months ago, I think, where we got no, it started a month ago. It started a month and a half ago, where we had gained the option of playing this content and getting all these different types of rewards. It went up to 15 in each element. And once we got to a certain point, it got really difficult. I mean, when I rate difficulty in this game, the latter stages were doable, but if you didn't have the right team, you kind of got clobbered. So, what I like about it is it forces you to use different characters, as each of these stages have an element. And if you don't have that element, you won't get the bonuses. And these bonuses become way more important the higher you go up. So I'm getting kind of scared when we hit 20 and we hit 25 and 30, how that's going to turn out. So I'm going to have another video on my thoughts about that. But there are certain characters that will get you through this content. But let's talk about rewards. What are the rewards for clearing this content? This is one of the rewards that you get, but it's not the main reward because later on you can consistently draw out resources that help you improve stats. But these are equipment bonuses. What I mean by that is each of these items that you get can actually replace items that you have that are weapon requirements. So if you're missing a certain piece of material required to upgrade a weapon or armor or helm or accessory, these little guys will replace that. And I think that's a great thing because building equipment in Archland becomes a real chore. I hope they make it as functional and easy as leveling up equipment in Landgresser because I'd like the system more there. So this is their way of addressing that, but I hope it gets better with time. The more important resource that I think you'll be interested in are these. Spirit of Power. These are really important, but this begins with one of the gripes that I have. The system in which you implement these resources in order to increase your character's power is a bit questionable to me, and I'm going to go into that right now. So let's get out of here real quick. We'll return, but we have to talk about this as I think it's a problem for me and other players alike. Where you implement these resources is in Steel of the Gods. So, say for instance, you're like me and you didn't really go all in on Steel of the Gods because there are other things in Promised Land that I think you should prioritize. And it's not Steel of the Gods. But now, with this new update and this new content, now it becomes extremely important. And I'll even show you that my Steel of the Gods is, it's not bad. It's 9. But at this stage of the game, for me, that's really low. Like, as you can see, all this is like 20. This is moving into 20. And this will take forever to get to 20. But I'm not going to move past this. I want to get all of this taken care of before I invest in Steel of the Gods because, as you can see, it requires the precious resource of rubies. That's one of the gripes I have about it. Still of the Gods is a big resource dump, as like a lot of things in Citadel. So when you go back here, you really don't want to waste your resources on symbols that don't do much for you. And these SSR symbols are way more important to me than the ones that I mess with down here, because these are Garbo. And I still have a guy down there, so I'm going to have to totally readjust my Steel of the Gods in order to compensate for this new update. I already have, because I moved like these guys into Flasheteer, and I moved these two guys into Prayer of Mars. But when you look at Scar of Battle, this is where you dump those resources that I was talking about at. And this is SR, this is like D grade, and each of these will give you stat growth. So first of all, you have to have a character junction to these, and then you actually have to put resources into that. And not only that, if you want other players to have access to this, like I'm awakening level 2 on this, I'm going to start increasing it slowly. But yeah, you're going to have to drop some serious resources into this. So this isn't so bad, as you'll be using this, but this unlocks a whole new can of worms, as you as a player have to actually look at Steel of the Gods, because you can get away with not investing in the Steel of the Gods, but now it becomes it's almost like, if you're an in-game player, this is like almost mandatory, because for me it's mandatory now, because I need extra stats, and it's hard to increase stats the higher you get in this game. So every little bit of stat growth counts, because from this I've got 72 attack, which is a lot. 24 defense, which isn't that much. HP 159, that's good. Like here, I got 64 attack, 33 defense, and 124 HP. And some bettors will say that's not a lot, but then they'll say again that it's, it's stat growth that I didn't have access to before. So this is one of the biggest concerns I have. But you as a player, you have to know that you're gonna have to look at Still of the Gods in a different way. You just can't cast it to the side anymore, and that's something that I'm struggling with, because I really didn't invest much in Still of the Gods. Even though it's 9, it's still not as high as it could have been, because I just feel there's other things that were worth my time and resources. But now that has changed. Let's go back into this guy and we'll look at it a little more in depth. What I will say is that there's a second level of rewards that you get, because if you played the first time, we had this where you move across and you pay with the gold, blue, and green, and you were able to pick up stuff. And there is a lot of rewards here. So much so that even if you're not as good as you would like to be, you completing and progressing through this will be a benefit to you in your account. So don't look at it as a bad thing. A lot of people have told me that it's difficult and I'm not going as far as I would like. And I'm here to say that it's okay. It's okay. You just need to push as hard as you can and get as much as you can out of this, because it's worth it. Because there's a lot of good stuff here, and you don't have to be the best player in the world to access it. But a tip I will say here is keep pushing forward. You'll see this straight line. It's in your best interest to push as far as you can forward, as the deeper you go into this, the better the rewards are. And if you think that you do not have a strong enough account to get everything, then it's better for you to push forward and get what you can. Like get the keys, get the stars, get the academy growth material. Just push forward as far as you can, because right here, I'm not going to waste any of this until I can break through that, because this will give me access to this and I'll be able to move forward through here. Another thing you need to think about is if you're a newer player, there are these guys right here where you can actually get access to them where you wouldn't have access to them. So think about that as well. You actually have to look at this and see what you want, but there's a lot to get. So don't be discouraged. Just keep pushing forward. And what what else I'll say is this is the easier content to do. The the darling, as it's just generic. You don't have bonuses here, but I didn't push all the way into it because all you get is green. But that's fine because the greens will fill in a lot of spaces on your shop rewards so that you can get as much stuff as you can. I'm here at third because of extraction. Extraction is good because it allows you to get these raw materials that you can switch between. Red is for attack, blue is for defense, and yellow is for HP. Just keep that in mind when you're farming for these materials, what you're getting and what you're looking for. So I'm at level 4. I'll be at level 5 soon. All I need is to clear 4 more levels of fire and I'll be at level 5. And when you're at level 5, you can just draw better stuff. You get access to SRs and SSR. Well, here you get access to like normal and SR and sometimes SSR. My advice is don't extract until you get to level 4 or 5 because it's just a waste of stamina if you don't get to 4 or 5. If you have a weaker account, then that's okay. You're just trying to build power. That's fine. That's fine. But for me, it's kind of a waste now to even go to 4 since I'm so close to reaching 5. When I reach 5, I'll probably start actually really extracting, start spending stamina. But remember, stamina is important in this content. I'm going to explain to you why. I'm just going to show you the requirements. You need 75 and you need 40 here. That's really difficult. Which is basically clearing almost all of it. Yeah, you're basically clearing all of it because each level is 30. So I did 10 of these. So basically, you get to level 20 on light and dark. So you divide this by 3, I guess. Um, you're doing 20. Yeah, you're doing 20. Yeah, 25. 25. Yeah, you're doing 25 on each of these. So in order to max it out, you got to do 25 on fire, water, and green. And you have to do 20 on light and dark, which isn't too bad because it means that you don't have to automatically clear everything in order to get to the max level. So that's good. So just remember that you only have to reach 25 on all 3 elements and reach 20 on the light and dark in order to clear everything. But the reason that I talk about that stamina is a problem is because each of these challenges actually cost you 20 stamina apiece. So when you do the math, in order to get to level 10, you'll actually have to spend 200 stamina. So you're spending 200, 400, another, that's 600, that's 800. In order to have 10 on all of them, you're actually going to spend 1,200 stamina. And that's a lot to ask for a new and growing account. More advanced players who have access to resources will be able to do this. But I'm just warning you that it is a stamina drain. But the good part is if you lose, you don't spend stamina. So take that for what it is. So I want to finish this off and talk about characters who can really, really help you clear the content. So by doing that, let's talk about the system they have. The system they have here is you select a hero from that element and they strengthen all their abilities by 10%. So the heroes that I would like to talk about are characters that will always perform really well in PvE content. And some of you may not have access to all the characters, so I will show you some free-to-play options for each element.
새로운 세계, 새로운 시작.
So let's start with the main character. For newer accounts, I suggest that you really pay attention to the 3 MC characters as they will fill in holes in each of those teams. So let's start with Sanakin. Sanakin is one of the best green units in the game. And the best part is he is low maintenance, as the fact that if you clear dimensions, if you just do the basics of the game, Sanakin should be pretty strong. And you get access to his shards. So my Sanakin sits at rank 7, and that's a good rank to have in order to clear this content. So Sanakin is really good for lightning on a budget.
너 지금 벨렌님에게 같이 이야기 나누자고 조르는 거야? 그럼 이리 와봐.
Belette is also good because she is the strongest fire tank in the game, but she is extremely free to play friendly, much like Sanakin and much like Avia. I give a special mention to Belette in the fact that she is a tank, and when you build your elemental cores, which is required in order to do this content, you're thinking tank, you're thinking wizard, and you're thinking warrior, and Belette automatically fills in that position. So even amongst like top tier teams, she's probably your best bet because there's not really that many good fire tanks. There's another fire tank I'm gonna talk about, and she's really good, but even though she's an SR, she's harder to build. Avia is just good for the simple fact that she is free to play friendly.
등대의 인도로 당신 곁에 왔습니다.
So
아비아 파엘, 등대의 인도로 당신 곁에 왔습니다.
So when you look at her traits and everything, her stats, she's got everything she needs. Is the problem that you will face if you're using Avia at a low level is you won't get access to her AoE healing skill. And that is something that she kind of needs in order to be the clutch healer for your light team. Because I know deep down inside, everybody does not
아비아
have
파엘,
Clefairy.
등대의 인도로 당신 곁에 왔습니다.
Another character that I'll talk about on a budget is Brownie. You actually get Brownie at the beginning of the game.
성광기사 브라운, 환영 인사드립니다. 조남이 어떻게 되시나요?
And he's a very competent DPS, and he's blue. So between him and Sersha, they're really good for
남의 머리
budget
위는
teams
왜 자꾸 쳐다보는 거야?
because Sersha actually deals a lot of damage, and unlike Charlotte, you're not spending that many resources in order to build her. Charlotte is really good, but there's a lot of things that make her good that you actually have to spend resources on. Her performance will not nearly be as good as Charlotte. She may not take you past level 12 in water, but that's better than her not taking you anywhere. If you have Charlotte, we'll talk about her later. She's actually better. Melissa is actually really
작은
good.
마을의 멧돼지 기사도 기사 아닌가? 오늘 멧돼지 기사는 또 누굴 구하러 갈까나?
Melissa's actually really good. The more I play her on different accounts, I realize that Melissa is really strong, and I see a lot of people in Korea play her. But the problem is you can build Belette faster. But if you luck out and get her to rank 6 or 8, I think you should use Melissa over Belette. but that's just my personal opinion because she does perform extremely well. So in Dark, you're looking at Hassan and Layla. I talk about
내
this.
앞에서 그렇게 긴장을 풀 배짱이 있는 건가?
The reason I talk about these two is Dark is really important because at first I thought I could get away with not having dark characters on my team in order to clear the content, but you actually need dark characters. So on a budget, I would strongly suggest Layla because if you start the game, if you get the little packet, you can get her for like I think $1 if you're willing to spend money. But if you don't, you can actually roll her out in the 10 pulls and you'll be able to get a Layla or a Hassan. But either way, you're going to need one of them. So on a budget, those are who I suggest. William is good for a light warrior. Enhart is good for a light tank on a budget. Lohans is good for a healer. And I'll stop there because these guys are only going to take you so far. But now I'm going to talk about the top 5 characters in each element. Characters that can consistently push you to higher levels in this game content. So of course, we're going to have to talk about Charlotte.
아이비스의 바람, 아이비스의 모든 것. 전부 내가 속할 유일한 곳이야. 아이비스의 기사는 영원히 당신을 위해 싸울 거야.
Charlotte is the foundation of any good water-based team. If you have Charlotte, then you're pretty much good to go. Even if you hit a point of content where you lose, this is what I'm going to tell you. Just look at Charlotte's stats and see what you can improve. 500 to 600 power should get you to that content in the next one. That's how strong she is. But I will say that at rank 4 and 5, she can only take you so far. But once you get to rank 6, 7, 8, and 9, you're gonna start flying through the content with her. So Charlotte is the #1 unit for water. The #1 unit for fire
용사들이여,
is Sigheart.
검을 들고 우리의 용기와 결심을 선포하라. 그 누구도 침범할 수 없다. 형세는 바람처럼 불안정할 테지만 인간의 의지는 반석처럼 견고하다. 당신이 바로 그 증거이다.
Well, they talk a lot, but I can't stress how important Sigheart is to get. Sigheart is so good in this content that I would have to say, like, when you start this game, when we start on global, out of those 3, more likely than not, I would really rather have Sigheart more than Lena or Nola, because that's how good he is in PvE content. That's how far he could push your account. This guy is extremely good. Like I said before, I was on the fence about this guy, but I'm trying to tell you guys, players, listen to me. Sighart's the way to go for fire. He is the way to go. He even comes with a team leadership skill that requires 2 more fire units. He does damage, he heals, and the more you invest in this guy, the more you get out of him, and it's almost exponential. Like at rank 4, he's doing way more than he did at rank 3. It's just phenomenal how strong he gets once you start getting him up in ranks. So that's my suggestion for fire. Of course, in green is Richard.
기사의 영광은 세월에 퇴색되지 않는다. 그대는 나 레온하트가 줄곧 기다려온 동료인가?
So why do I suggest Richard over Seminar? Seminar is extremely good, but Richard is the backbone of a green faction team. My second suggestion behind him would be Nola, but first would be Richard because simply put, he's a tank. You already have a tank for fire and Ballet, but Richard is the tank for green, and you already have a faction buffer and main character, Sanakin. So if you have Sanakin and you have Richard, and you just need a random healer, you already have 2 green units and a team leadership skill activated. Richard provides so much for your team that it's hard not to argue that he's not the best green unit in the game. He is actually neck and neck with the new healer, Hazel, for the best green unit in the game. This guy can stun, which is important and that I use in this content. He tanks. He actually does DPS. He's a full package. And even at rank 3, he's doing so much for my team. So in order to clear this content, in order to consistently do so, you're going to need Richard as your tank. There's no other way around it. There's ways to do it, but it's far more difficult if you don't have Richard. But like I said, behind him would be Nola. It'll be between Nola and Seminar for green. In light, I have 2 suggestions, actually 3. First is Gabriel.
이곳은 영역개척 작업 부서다. 무슨 일이지? 먼저 회의 시간을 예약해라.
I think Gabriel is critical for a couple of reasons. First of all, you can use her in other levels that are outside of her element because her performance is so high. Second, she comes with a team leadership skill. Third, she's a very competent tank. And fourth, she works well with other units. There's not a lot of bad things to say about Gabriel. Her defense is on the low side for a tank, but you can augment that with runes and equipment too. It's just the fact that you can use her in multiple stages makes her so much more valuable than other units. Of course, I have to talk about Clefairy for
아비아를
light.
돌봐주셔서 감사합니다. 파로스에 있을 때보다 훨씬 웃음이 많아졌어요.
Clefairy is probably the best healer in the game. Hazel is good in PvP content, but not so much in PvE content. I think Clefairy and Velek and Alicia are still the 3 best healers for PvE content, and Clefairy sits at the top of the list. She has Act Again, she has Regen, and she heals on top of heals. So she's pretty functional, and she's easy to use and understand. So I use her a lot, and the thing about her, like Gabriel, is you can use her on multiple teams in order to clear this content. That's why I put her to the end, because you can use her in multiple content. As well as Marguerite. Marguerite is surprisingly
북고당의
good.
이름으로 낭만과 열정이 가득한 아이비스에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Marguerite is really good. Better than you would think, especially in PvE content. I think for Branches of the Trees, she is really, really good. For the simple fact she can teleport people to other places that are more advantageous, because the positioning in this game and these levels of Branches of the Trees are really problematic. She gets around that. She attacks and heals. She buffs. I mean, her AoEs can actually heal. She's a whole package. Marguerite is so good that I think the light core for PvE content is stronger than any core in the game, because you have a strong healer, a strong tank, and a strong wizard. And I actually use William. I actually use William.
어떤 곤경에 처해도 신께서 우리를 희망으로 인도하실 거다.
And he kind of sucks with, but in the light core, there's other guys who are carrying the load, and all he has to do is warrior, so it's fine. So those guys are really good. The problem I have on my account is dark. And the reason I suffer in dark is because I'm missing both arena.
죽음을 두려워하지 않는 방패가 있는 한 제왕은 안전하다. 제왕의 방패 아누시야.
I think arena.
저 이리나 명령을 따르겠습니다.
I think they talk so much. I think arena is the best tank for Branches of the Trees, even over Kabir. I like Kabir, but more and more, the more I see, the more I watch her being played, I know arena is leagues ahead of this guy, and it's pretty sad, but it is what it is. Arena is at low level still functional enough in order to get you past some of this content. The thing about it is, not everybody has the resources to summon for her, even including myself. Actually, I have to watch videos of people playing her to understand her, because I myself do not have her. But from what I've seen, she's golden. She's absolutely golden. If you have Kabir, he'll work just fine. But Arena is doing so much more than him. She can heal herself. She can debuff. She can take magic. She can tank. She has distance counter, and she has increased counterattack depending on what guard you put up. Uh, Not much more to say. She's arguably the best or second best tank in the game. Yeah, pretty much it.
가면을 쓰면 이름은 잊어야 합니다.
Yeah.
저는 언제든 목숨 바칠 준비가 되어 있습니다.
However, Susan,
내게 준 신뢰가 내 옆에 동생보다는 많아야 할 거야. 보여? 내 언니의 집착은 정말 무서울 정도지.
I mentioned these two at the end of this video because when you get to the dark levels, the enemies will be weakened based on debuffs. And I guess the designers of the game expect you to have dark characters that can readily put on debuffs, but that's not the case. Like Hassan has to be hit or he has to cast an effect in order to generate debuffs. Susie and Susan do that on their own with their passive, and they provide a leadership skill. So because of that, I think if you get the chance, you have to roll for Susie and Susan because in order to clear the higher level content and the dark levels, you're going to need a consistent way to debuff, and Susie and Susan provide that. There are ways to get around it, but they're just a lot. It's just more difficult in order to do that. So that's why I talk about Susie and Susan in the dark team because they're more important than you would think at first because you need a consistent way to debuff the units, especially on level 13 of dark that require you to debuff. No, it's level 15 of dark that requires you to debuff the opponent because if you do not debuff the opponent, their stats are just outrageous and you really have no opportunity or option to kill them. So Susie and Susan are really good, and it's to the point where I think, in my personal opinion, you're probably going to need them for the long haul of this game because of the debuff mechanic they use when concerning fighting opponents in the dark levels, because that's the way I guess they want to force you in order to play them. So keep that in mind. The last character I'll speak about, which is related to dark, is where is she? Okay, Alicia.
나 엘리시아는 케투라의 형제, 그리고 미래의 유일한 월관왕이 될 것이다.
Oh yeah, and another mention is Peacock, cause let me go to Peacock real quick. Yeah, Peacock.
초심극단에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 공작 기사 피콕. 제가 당신의 여정을 장밋빛으로 물들여 드리겠어요.
Until we get another Dark Warrior, Peacock is the Dark Warrior that we have to choose. In order to create a functional Dark Core, a really good Dark Core, you really need a Warrior. Zilbanef can fill that space as well if you have access to her, but Peacock actually functions well in a debuff Dark based team, and for this content, I think she would be pretty good. However, I think Alicia is even better.
나 엘리시아는 케투라의 형제, 그리고 미래의 유일한 월관왕이 될 것이다.
Because she fills in the healer spot, and for a healer that can actually debuff, a healer that can actually buff a single ally, she's really good. So there are certain characters who just perform really well. I would have to say that assassins are probably the weakest unit in this content, but then even they have certain roles where you have to kill the units that are attacking the villagers. They're really good in that and not much else. But yeah, this is some interesting content, but it is resource demanding and account demanding because it's in-game content. But if you like my content, hit the like, share, subscribe button. I'll get back to you. Have a great day and goodbye.